What's going on, everybody? So now that the football season is here, I can officially say that we will now have Browns After Dark Sunday night, Monday night, and if that is not enough for you, we got another one on Thursday. So if you've ever said to yourself, hey, I wonder where I can meet with people and talk about the Browns, that is the place for you. Check us out at Browns After Dark on Twitter. The link will be in the description down below. Times will also be posted on that Twitter page, so be sure to give us a follow, turn on your notifications, and come let us know what you think. We want to know your thoughts, so I'm looking forward to seeing you there.
Welcome back to the Browns Beat podcast. A new dawn, a new day, and a new season for the Cleveland Browns officially marked by the move of in addition to a new defensive coordinator. We'll get into that in just a little bit. But Derek, tell me how you've been. Tell me how you're doing.
I'm all right. Staying busy as usual. Just living life. It's been interesting. It's been very interesting. Couple of not even just days, like the last couple of weeks have been a weird time in my life. Just processing a lot. And
yeah.
It's good to be back. It's good that the Browns are making changes because the last time we talked, it was, all right, who is it going to be? And I like being at the point where we're at now, where we know, you know what I'm saying? We don't got to worry about it. Jim Schwartz is the new defensive coordinator for the Cleveland Browns. We'll talk about what that means going forward. So Tristan, how are you?
Doing great, man. Doing great. Man, just really excited. The excitement for the new season finally kind of kicked in for me now. Last season, so much negativity, so many things went wrong. It was just get the season over with. And this now marks a change, something to look forward to for the new season. And it makes me want to watch football.
Tristan, it's the best time to be Browns fan. It's the off season. We're here. we can be overly excited and talk about how every draft pick is going to be in the Hall of Fame.
Absolutely.
That's what we
do. Exactly.
Year.
That's what we do every single year. And then at the same token, we'll say how every single player on this roster is dog shit. That's what we do. But
Perrion Winfrey, when we picked him, I'm guilty of it too. I was like, this dude's going to be a stud. He's awesome. Which, by the way, still think he can be good. But like we were talking, we were like, man, this dude next to Myles Garrett and Clowney. And now everybody's like, fuck you. You suck. Get off the team. It's like, bro, come on. We're the craziest fan base in the NFL. I know Bills fans are nuts, but like, come on.
Honestly, it's just the fan base is trauma. That's what it is.
Oh, yeah,
That's what it is. So it's just like we see something, we think we've seen it before, right? It's just, and we think it's the same thing, but it's not, and our wires just cross, and it's like, but actually, speaking about Perrion Winfrey, we'll get into that when we talk about the new defensive coordinator for the Cleveland Browns, Jim Schwartz. Derek, where were you when the news dropped that we hired Jim Schwartz? And how much of a surprise was it? Because really the reports were it's going to be Desai, it's going to be Flores. Like nobody really came out and said it's going to be Jim Schwartz. And here it was all along. The Browns' first interview that they did was with Jim Schwartz. Yeah. Nobody picked up on that. Nobody picked up on it. And here we are today. Derek, walk me through it. Where were you? How do you feel about it?
Well, where was I? I was right over here laying in my bed because...
In the Browns Stadium? You have a bed in there?
Yeah. Did you know that? Yeah. I have a bed over here in section 130. No,
the Haslam Suite?
Yeah, exactly. They don't know about it. But anyway, yeah, I was in bed. I told... me and Tristan were talking before we were both off today. I was up till 4 a.m. last night, this morning. And so I woke up at like 12:30 and was just on Twitter. Or no, I was on Instagram. That's how I saw it. I saw Jim Schwartz and I didn't think it was hired. I thought it was going to be like they've, I don't know. I didn't think it was going to be he was hired. I'll put it to you like that. Mm-hmm. And then I read it and I was like, oh, Jim Schwartz was hired. And then I went on Twitter because that's the place of disaster. And I was like reading everybody's thoughts and everything like that. But I mean, I didn't feel strongly either way about it, Tristan. I'll be honest with you because, we'll dive into it. But Jim Schwartz was kind of the safe pick for multiple reasons, in my opinion. You know, and I'm not going to sit here and lie to you and say he was my favorite, right? I'm not going to do that, you know, to be right. But, you know, it was Flores and Schwartz was my top two because we needed experience at the end of the day. And Jim Schwartz, long time experienced defensive coordinator, head coach, just NFL personality as a whole, respected by multiple people. You know, by all accounts, a no nonsense guy. And that's what we need. You know, we need somebody, and it's going to be thrown around. And I've already seen it thrown around, a football guy, right? Because you have the analytics and then you have the football people, right? It's your coach, right? That, I mean, same thing with Bill Callahan. It's not that he's like your next head coach or anything like that, but like he has the experience and he's proven that he's been good at his job. That's how I feel about Jim Schwartz. But what do you think about it?
Yeah, kind of same boat with you. I would have preferred somebody with experience rather than somebody who was new. So for me, it was easily Flores or Jim Schwartz. I was kind of right there with you. I wouldn't have been like pissed if we went out and got like a Desai, or I think there was like the Eagles assistant. I apologize, I don't know his name. But I wouldn't have been like super angry if we got on with one of those guys. I just think with where this team is right now, we need a veteran coach, somebody who's going to bring authority and leadership. And Jim Schwartz, I mean, he got fired from Philly, but really he shouldn't have. He had a good defense.
He was the DC for the Super Bowl.
Yeah, he won him a Super Bowl. And honestly, like he's a very good defensive coordinator. He's proven it time after time. Took a year with the Titans this year, and honestly, I think it was probably the best bet, in my opinion. Looking into it, and we'll get more into detail as well, but I think that it made the most sense as far as what the fan base, I think, wanted, with what the team, or at least what the fan base feels the team needs, as well as it feels like what the team felt it also needed. So I wanted to point out a couple of things about Jim Schwartz I really liked. And I wanted to give you the opportunity, Derek, because I know we were talking a little before we got on here. And I pretty much did a boatload of research on Jim Schwartz, as much as I possibly could, before our podcast today.
At least somebody on this podcast did.
Well, but I want to ask you first and foremost, Derek, what do you feel as far as like, because you know, the viewers who are watching this who might not know much about Jim Schwartz, maybe you know, what would you say your feelings towards him are as a coach and a defensive coordinator?
I love it because it's low risk, high reward. That's how I would phrase it. I think, again, Brian Flores was my choice, you know, and I think everybody really wanted Brian Flores. But with Jim Schwartz, and here's another thing too that I think a lot of people aren't talking about. With the Jim Schwartz hire, it's not a threat to Kevin Stefanski, you know, and I know that was kind of a narrative that was pushed, was if Flores was hired, is he going to be a threat? Is that going to be the elephant in the room, right? Which could become a problem. You're not going to have that with Jim Schwartz, right? He's literally just going to be your defensive coordinator. And I think as far as the low risk, high reward goes, he's very consistent. That is the best part about this, is you don't have to guess. It's not like he had one great year, one terrible year. Like across the board, all of his defenses have been top 6, I want to say. I saw a graphic earlier today.
They've been top half of the league for certain. Yeah. And especially when you're talking about percentage of, and this is something that you'll really like to hear, percentage of man coverage used. He's been top 10 pretty much year after year.
I'm glad you brought that up, because that was kind of the one question that I had, because Jim Schwartz is known for his run defense, which I think is kind of, you know, indirectly Andrew Berry's way of acknowledging there's a problem on the defensive line. And you will see multiple changes on the defensive line. And we'll talk about it probably later in the podcast. We'll talk about it many times this offseason. But just the strength of what Jim Schwartz does is up front, the front four. So personally, I see a complete overhaul. And it's not saying that a lot of these guys are going to be gone, but I think you're going to see a lot of new faces at defensive tackle, a lot of new usage of guys. And what I mean by that is like Alex Wright. I wouldn't be surprised at all if he's used in a little bit different of a way, right? Because, excuse me, Joe Woods tried to use Alex Wright, but it wasn't great. And I think you're going to see Jim Schwartz kind of come up with new ways to use guys. But as far as secondary goes, though, this was my biggest thing was, the strength of Jim Schwartz is up front, and that's what he's always been good at. But Tristan, I've said it many times, the best part about this Browns defense is the secondary. And okay, when he was first hired, I was like, know about Brian Flores as far as how he handles the secondary, and he's ultra aggressive. But I didn't know much about Jim Schwartz. So being that you said that, if he's a primary man defensive coordinator, that makes me very, very happy, because the decline of Denzel Ward's play, in my opinion, is because of the scheme. I don't think it's just Denzel Ward. Same thing with Greg Newsome. Now, the only, kind of outlier is Emerson. Yeah. But I kind of feel like Emerson's going to be good regardless. That's just kind of the sense I feel.
His skills on man coverage this year has been what's impressed us the most, because we weren't expecting him to be a great man cover corner. And he was exceptional at it this year. So I agree with you. I think Emerson's going to – I think he's a pretty good, well-rounded player. I just hope that it's not too much, where it's like if he's gonna stay a boundary corner in Jim Schwartz's defense, and I'll elaborate on this in a little bit. I'll let you finish, but we're gonna need to change some certain positions. But I'll let you kind of go into that, or as far as like continue, and then I'll kind of do my thing.
Yeah, and that's kind of my biggest thing is how is he going to handle this? Because we've talked about it many times. I think the solution to the secondary, as far as getting the most out of them, is man on the outside, zone on the inside. You know what I mean? I think you have Emerson. And listen, Greg Newsome can do both, right? That's kind of the strength of Greg Newsome. He's very fluid.
He's a solid corner. He's a very solid corner. You know what you're going to get from Greg Newsome.
He's complete. That's the best part. He's complete. Like, I don't have to worry. And it's not that Emerson's not. That's not my point here. But as far as, like, anybody on the roster, right, if you said random situation, who do you want covering him? I would say Greg Newsome. I would. I trust him the most, I should say. So Newsome can play inside. Newsome can play outside. But in my opinion, Ward needs to be in man probably 75% of the time. I think Emerson, probably same thing, should be in man a lot. Because like you said, he's proven that he can do that. Newsome can do whatever. I think it's just a matter of putting those guys in the right situation. I think Ward needs to stay on the outside. I think Newsome and Emerson can, flip around, do whatever. That's kind of where you can have the hybrid situation there. But safeties. This is the conversation we've had many times. This is the conversation we're going to continue to have. John Johnson is still going to be a Brown, so it seems. We'll see, but we're going to treat it like he will be for now. Grant Delpit is coming into a critical time of his career where he's going to have to put up or shut up. It's kind of the Greedy Williams situation where it's like, all right, decision's going to be made on you at some point. Delpit's had a ton of flashes, and I am a diehard Grant Delpit fan. I love Delpit. I think we've barely tapped into his potential. What is Jim Schwartz going to do? How is he going to use Delpit, Johnson, and then what does his vision look like as far as the center field goes? Who Who does he think can handle that and fill that role out? That's what gets me excited, because I'm not worried about our front four. I'm not really that worried about our linebackers. New guys will be brought in, draft picks, free agency, whatever. But the secondary, you already have the guys. It's just a matter of, okay, here's the puzzle. What pieces do I put where? Joe Woods, I would grade him a D on how he used the secondary. Schwartz is experienced, seen a ton of talented guys. What is he going to do? That's what I'm excited about.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no. And honestly, I'll tell you exactly. So like I said, I did quite a bit of my research on Jim Schwartz today. And honestly, here's what I know. Okay. Jim Schwartz will primarily run cover 1 and cover 3. So you're either going to have single high or 3 high safeties on the field. And what's the difference with that with Joe Woods, you say? Joe Woods was more so cover 3 and quarters coverage, which
sucks.
The thing is like it was too reserved. You had too many blown assignments. Zone coverage works if you have the correct personnel. Our personnel does not dictate that that heavy zone coverage, quarters coverage makes sense. With the amount of specific guys that are great with man coverage, guys who, you can trust to win one-on-one on the boundary, stuff like that. That's why it didn't really work with Joe Woods, is because we didn't have, like, if we would have had like Richard Sherman, like what the Seahawks had, or sorry, not Seahawks, San Francisco, what they had, where they had guys who were great in their zones, and they weren't necessarily one-on-one guys, but they were absolutely fantastic in zone coverage. That is the personnel that Joe Woods needed. He didn't have that, so that's why we had to move on. The very big interesting thing about this defense, in my opinion, Derek, I know you said we're going to assume John Johnson's here. He is going to be cut. I'm telling you this right now. I do not see a way that we survive with both Delpit and John Johnson on this team, unless if one of them takes a really diminished role, and that sure as hell wouldn't be John Johnson if we kept him. So it comes down to either Grant Delpit or John Johnson. I think that the $9 million that we would get from John Johnson, that pretty much is going to pay 90% of the salary of the next guy we bring in. It makes too much sense to cut him. No offense to John Johnson. He's a talented football player. He's just not going to fit what we need. And he wasn't the correct guy to sign from the moment that we signed him.
There's a part 2 to this, though, that I feel is important. Him and Schwartz, personality-wise, would clash heavily, in my opinion.
Yeah. It could. You're right. It could. But for me, it's more so of a personnel thing. I think that it doesn't make sense to keep John Johnson around when you can use that money on a free safety. And this is the conversation I want to have.
So do you keep Ronnie Harrison then? What?
Honestly, yeah. He's cheap. You know what you're going to get out of him. He's okay in zone. I think he's a good enough third safety to have when you play 3 high. And this leads me to my next point. This defense is going to live or die this year by the recruitment of the free safety position. If we go out and we get a Jordan Poyer or we get a Jesse Bates, if we go out and get one of those two guys, this defense is going to be fine. But because of Jim Schwartz's reliance on a single high safety, you are going to need to have a guy who can play sideline to sideline, who is fantastic, who you can trust, who you know will not break his zone and will not break his coverage, and he can read plays. That's what Jesse Bates is. And Jordan Poyer has been one of the best zone coverage safeties in the league for the past several years. So either one of those two guys, in my opinion, is perfect for this team. And that, I know everybody in this fan base loves Daron Payne. Trust me, I do too. He's not the investment we need to make. the safety position, free safety position, is the most important position on this team. And I will even go as far as to say, if we do not get an elite safety for next season, our defense will not be good. It will not be good. And Harrison, Martin Emerson. Martin Emerson's the guy I want to point out here. And this is why I brought him up earlier. Martin Emerson is going to have moments where he's on the boundary as a corner and a guy's going to have a step. It's going to happen. You're going to see our corners sometimes in positions where they give up a big play. It's just going to happen. That's the reality of a cover one defense. If you have an elite free safety, it's not going to happen often. It's not going to happen often. So that's why it's so important for us to get an elite guy. And I can't stress that enough. An elite guy for that free safety spot. So I think Jesse Bates, personally, if he hits free agency this year, I think we got to go all over that. If Jordan Poyer hits free agency this year, we got to go all over that. Those two guys, in my opinion, are my big two. I know you're not a big fan of bringing Jordan Poyer back to Cleveland.
No, okay, I actually am.
But
I love Jordan Poyer.
Yeah, but I just think it makes too much sense to at least bring one of those two in. But yeah,
let me address this real quick, because it's an interesting conversation that you're bringing up here. And it's not that I don't agree with you, because I do. And we've talked about it. I think the free safety position is massive. But here's where I will disagree with you. I don't think that you have to necessarily go as big game hunting as maybe you're saying. And that's not to say anybody can fill that role. That's not my point. But I think given the strength of the other guys in your secondary, if used correctly, I don't think you need a Jordan Poyer or a Jesse Bates or, somebody of that caliber. I think you need a good safety. I don't think you necessarily need an elite or even a great safety, if that makes sense. And I could be completely wrong. I could be totally wrong. But in my opinion, I think it's just balancing the strengths of each individual guy. And also because, and you brought it up, I think the Browns will go get Deron Payne. I'll be honest with you. If I had to put money down today, I'm betting on yes, or at least somebody like a Deron Payne, because of how much that is incorporated in Jim Schwartz defense. And I think they trust the secondary they have outside of that position. And I could be wrong. I don't know. These are the answers I wish we got from Andrew Berry, because they're so quiet. They don't talk about much of anything. Like, I wish we knew what they thought of the safety position.
Watertight seal in that boardroom. No leaks ever. I mean, Mary Kay thought that Desai was going to get the job not even like 12 hours before Jim Schwartz was hired. She knew that the announcement was coming, which fair enough to her, but didn't even know it was Jim Schwartz. Which
did you believe that we were going to hire somebody right away?
I did. Okay. I think that the Browns, and it made sense at the time, because I think it was either Mary Kay or somebody else came out, that the Browns are going to want to do hire their DC quickly before other teams hire their head coaches. That way they get their pick of the litter with the DCs, which is what they did. It's what they did. I don't think there's been any head coaching announcements. I know there's GMs, but that's what they did. So I'm not shocked. And now the Browns can game plan as far as what prospects they're going to look to bring in through the draft, or guys that they're looking to sign in free agency. And that's the biggest one, is free agency.
Yeah. I'll be honest with you, though. I didn't think we would. Like, I heard as early as Tuesday, and I thought by Friday. That's what I thought. But I think the reason why they did is because they didn't want to wait on Brian Flores, because by everything that I've heard, and I'm sure you've heard the same, Flores was going to wait out and see what all his options were. And I think the Browns were worried. And I was worried about it too, I'll be honest with you. My biggest fear was they were going to wait on Flores, and that was going to go on, whatever. And then Schwartz was going to get hired somewhere else. And then all their money's going in, or all their chips are going into the Brian Flores table. and then that falls short, and then you're stuck. That's why I think they pulled the trigger on Schwartz. I keep thinking Anthony Schwartz.
Yeah, no, you're good. Yeah, no, I think that's part of it. I think the other part is it's an easier transition. A lot of your personnel fits really well. So I think that's part of the other reason why. And I guess part of the reason why I said an elite free safety is if we can get a guy like Jesse Bates or a guy like Jordan Poyer, along with the talent that we've already got in that corner room and in that secondary, you will, assuming that the safety, it's whoever it is, Poyer or Jesse Bates, and the guys that we have on the roster right now play to the level that we expect them to play at, you will have a top 10 defense in the NFL. No questions
you should
asked.
already.
You should already, but this would be like, I'm not even kidding you. It would be probably one of the best secondaries in the league if we were able to.
It would be the best, in my opinion. Do you think Jesse Bates would come to Cleveland despite the Bengals for how they've handled it?
Honestly, I think he might see it as an opportunity to say absolutely, because, and here's exactly why I say that, because the Bengals have refused to give him his paycheck, what he earns. How awesome would it be for him to go to a division rival, to show that, like, who pays him what he's worth, and then to show them twice a year why they should have. Players love that stuff. They love it because it's an extra motivation. It's an extra competition. And imagine if Jesse Bates could come to Cleveland, turn us around, turn our defense around, get the credit for that. And on top of that, if we're able to, which I'm assuming, hopeful that we'll be able to finish above the Bengals every year this year. How awesome would that be, right?
That'd be cool. Well, and he knows Joe Burrow. So
yeah.
Burrow's already had his issues against the Browns. So
yeah, but yeah, no, I think that's part of the reason why I feel as though an elite free safety is necessary. And another player who I want to talk about, a player that I think will explode in the Jim Schwartz defense, Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah. JOK has been asked to play a lot of zone coverage under
Joe Woods.
Joe Woods, thank you. We are going to see him matched up against running backs. We're going to see him matched up against tight ends. You're going to see a lot of that, and especially running backs. I think that having his eyes in the backfield on a running back at all times is fantastic news. He's a part of the reason why he was so high on everybody's draft boards, at least the analysts' draft boards, when that year when we got him, was because of his man coverage skills. They were so far and away better than any other linebacker in the draft that year. And so I feel like under Jim Schwartz, where you're going to see more man coverage, I think the JOK could really explode. But I will also say this. We're going to need athletic linebackers, which we have. But it's going to be a test. That linebacking room is going to be tested next year. And we're going to see truly how good they are. And I'm excited for it because, honestly, I think there is a lot of young talent there that quite hasn't been harvested the way that I think I would like to see. I think Jacob Phillips could be a great guy in this system because of his athleticism. And if he's man on man, I think he'll show signs of improvement.
Well, and a big thing with that is, the conversation a lot of people have about the linebacking linebacker room with Jim Schwartz is they need a thumper in the middle because that's normally what his defenses have, apparently. So I've heard. I think Jacob Phillips could. I know we do this and again, here's the conversation again of all our mid players are great. That's not what I'm saying. I think Phillips could take a step because that's his strength. He's a great tackler. He's physical. He's big. And I feel like we just haven't used him great. And I think, I don't know, it's tough because I really want Deion Jones back too. But I don't feel like he fits the style of what Schwartz would want. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I see Phillips fitting more in a Jim Schwartz system as an outside, like a backup outside is where I kind of think for him, just because I think his athleticism, I think he could be decent in zone coverage. I worry about him in the middle of the field because I don't trust his vision. Oftentimes he's picking the wrong gaps to shoot when it's coming to figuring out where the run's going. And so I just can't trust him in that role yet. I think he could develop into that role and fit it really well in the future, but I just don't think I can trust it yet. But he would have, if he made huge strides in the offseason with that, I would definitely expect him to play really well in that middle spot. But I think he's more of a guy that you can rotate on the outside of the linebacking core. Deion Jones is very interesting. If we sign him, I'll definitely be excited for it. I'll be very intrigued for how Jim Schwartz uses him, because I think that middle spot is the one where, honestly, like I've got questions as far as who he is going to expect to fill that role, because there's many guys you can put in that role. As far as who's going to be the best, I'm not sure. I think the safest pick is Anthony Walker, just because we know what we can get out of Anthony Walker. We know he's a great leader as well.
Don't sleep on Taki, though.
Taki. I honestly would love to see us try him in the middle, but I mean, I don't know as though I can expect that, but I would love that. I would definitely love that. But
it'll be a preseason play around with it.
Yeah. Thing. Yeah, exactly. If we re-sign him, which I hope we do. I really hope we do.
Oh, is he a free agent?
I think so, yeah. Him, DPJ, I think he was part of that draft class. So, yeah, they're all free agents.
Not this offseason, though. Because DPJ's here another year.
He is?
Yeah.
Oh, I thought he was a free agent. No, never mind that. My apologies.
No, because if he was a free agent this offseason, I'd be panicking.
Or was he with the... He was with the Jordan Elliott draft. Was that also DPJ? I don't know. Either way.
What year was Taki was greedy draft?
I think you're right. Was that 2018, 2019?
Yeah, 2018.
So if it was 2018, he would be a free agent this year because it's 4 years.
Because DPJ,
but if it's 2019, then.
Well, when was Andrew Berry hired? What year was Andrew Berry hired? What was his first draft? So it had to be 2020.
2020.
So 2019 would have been John Dorsey's last draft.
2020 would be DPJ. 2019 was Dorsey, who he picked Taki. That's right. So
no.
Yeah, no. Taki was not Dorsey, an AD pick.
No, Dorsey picked DPJ, right? Or no. Berry
did.
Are you
Berry's
sure?
First draft. I'm pretty sure.
Check that, because I'm pretty sure Dorsey picked DPJ.
Podcast is falling apart.
Exactly. This is what happens.
Here, I'll just Google search Browns draft picks.
Because I'm pretty sure it was 2019. I want to say it was 2019, Dorsey's last year. DPJ was the 6th round draft pick. That's what I want to say.
Okay. So,
because Berry's first draft was the COVID draft.
Okay. So Donovan Peoples. See, I was right. 2020, Donovan Peoples-Jones was picked in the 6th round. 2019, Sione Taki was picked in the 3rd round.
So he was a 2020 pick.
Donovan Peoples-Jones was a 2020 pick, yeah. Yeah. So
it was Andrew Berry's. Really?
Dude, holy crap.
What?
Dude, besides one pick, one or two, I guess you could say, Andrew Berry killed his first draft. First pick was Jed Wills, who, even though we're not high on, he's a starter. Should have picked a different guy.
Should have picked
Tristan.
Tristan
Wirfs. Just a different one,
I almost said Treylon Burks. Yeah.
Tough. But 2nd round was Grant Delpit. 3rd round, Jordan Elliott. Then also later in the 3rd, Jacob Phillips. He hit good on his late round picks. Harrison Bryant in the 4th, Nick Harris in the 5th, DPJ in the 6th.
I like the end of the draft more than I like the beginning.
Yeah, right. Honestly, but no, sorry. So sorry to sidetrack the podcast, but we had to figure that out.
Hey,
then I think Sione Taki would be a free agent this year. Then I'm pretty sure.
Be.
Yeah, because if he was 2019, that's 4 years in the league. Yeah, he's a free agent. So or at least he should be. Because he played the 2019-20 season, 2021, 21, 22, 22, 23. Yeah, this would be his last season. We would have to re-sign him. I thought so, but I wasn't certain. But anyways, if we re-sign him to play him through the middle, I would like to see that given a shot. But I'm not sure. I'll be very intrigued to see what Jim Schwartz does in the middle of the park there. The D-line and the front seven as a whole is something I want to elaborate on too. A lot of us, including myself, got mad that Joe Woods would refuse to blitz. And when he would blitz, it was successful. And then we would be leading in games, and now he's back to his quarters coverage. It would drive us nuts. Jim Schwartz is not big on blitzing. I'll say that first and foremost. He's not big on blitzing. However, he is known to move guys along the line for more favorable matchups. What does this mean? I think that you could see Myles Garrett. You'll see him used on both sides, which we've seen that done before. I think you could even see him some games being used on the inside, D-tackle. If the matchup is favorable on the inside for Myles, I think you could see it. So that's where I think we're going to see a lot of wow, because he'll do different things, like what you said with Alex Wright. Alex Wright, I'm honestly really looking forward to see how he uses him, just because he's such a weird, and I don't mean this in a bad way, but he's such a weird player, unique player.
He's
super
Jadeveon
long,
Clowney, just not as highly
bulky or athletic. Yeah, no, it's he's just got that long like length, right? He doesn't have the bend, but he's long. He doesn't have like a crap ton of muscle, but he's slowly but surely getting there. But he's been effective when he's been on the field this year. And Isaiah Thomas is another guy who I think will be very interesting to see next year too. As far as that D tackle spot, this is the best guy to have to remedy that D tackle spot. Pretty much anywhere he's ever been, he's gotten the absolute most out of his D tackles. And I want to bring up Fletcher Cox. Fletcher Cox, the year the Eagles went to the Super Bowl, there were people arguing that Fletcher Cox was the best D lineman in the NFL over Aaron Donald, right? And this was I believe it was an Aaron Donald Defensive Player of the Year season, right? And there were people who were making that argument.
He was dominant too. It wasn't a fluke.
Oh no.
Yeah.
He, I believe he also, what else? Washington, he had Albert Hainsworth, who he got quite a bit out of. He was just with the Titans with
Justin Simmons.
Justin Simmons.
No.
Or no, not Justin Simmons.
Justin Simmons is a safety.
No.
Jeffrey Simmons.
Jeffrey, thank you. Yeah,
Jeffrey Justin. Shout out to the Cleveland Pulse. Jeffrey and Justin.
Yes. I'm really intrigued to see what he does with Perrion Winfrey. I think you could see a Perrion Winfrey explosion under Jim Schwartz. I really do. I think that with Jim Schwartz and how his defense operates, I think that you'll see elevated D tackle play. I don't necessarily think that you need to go out and get a Daron Payne, but it surely helps. Honestly, if I was the Browns this offseason, I'd be trying to free up as much cap space as I could and try to bring in Daron Payne and Jesse Bates is my ideal. I think. I don't think we'll have the cap money to do it, but if we could figure it out, I would say that 1,000,000%.
Well, okay.
1,000,000% should be something we go for.
This morning on the Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show, so we'll give them credit for this. Yeah. Adam Bull was saying he heard there's a way for the Browns currently with cutting nobody, can restructure to clear $50 million in cap space. Yep. Which, if that is true, brother, that is insane.
Yeah, no, and essentially what it would be is paying the money up front in signing bonus. And for example, we're probably going to do that with Deshaun Watson. His contract's fully guaranteed anyway. Might as well just pay it ahead of time.
Yeah. Just pay
which
it
is
as you can, whatever works best.
yeah. So I'll be very interested to see what we do this free agency. Ultimately, this defense, in my opinion, takes a full 180 and it looks fantastic with Jesse Bates in free safety. It's an elite defense if you can also find a way to get Deron Payne as well.
Oh, it's the best
And
defense in the league. If you can get Jesse Bates in the backfield and add Deron Payne up front with Myles Garrett, it's the best defense in the NFL by far.
It's
well,
one of
maybe
them
not
for
by
sure.
far, but I think it is.
One of them for sure. But I think that would be two spots and two opportunities that I think that this Browns team should absolutely look to
that
do.
would be Madden. It would literally be a Madden offseason with the cap space turned off if that can happen.
Yeah, well, and now there's people also saying we want to trade for D-Hop too, which
we should probably talk about that too.
If yes, we absolutely should. But the last thing I'll say is this: I don't know as though our issue in D tackle is. I don't know as though it's a star power issue because I think that you'll see a step forward from Perrion Winfrey. It's more of a depth concern for me. I think that if we could get a guy like Deron Payne, we would need to make sure that our young guys in that D tackle room take a step forward, which is sure possible under Jim Schwartz, but we need more than pretty sure,
Yeah, but here's the thing, though. The young guys aren't young anymore. Tommy Togiai is going on his third year. Jordan Elliott, or third or second year. Jordan Elliott's going on his fourth. That's my problem is like, I don't know. I just think we're going to end up replacing more than – I think Togiai will stay. I think Elliott could be replaced.
Mm-hmm. I think it's possible, yeah. I think you're right. It's going to be an interesting offseason. I would say the biggest positions to look at for this defense, as far as key additions and free agency, I would be looking at free safety. I'd be looking at D tackle. I'd be looking at middle linebacker. Those are the three, in my opinion, that under Jim Schwartz, those three could be really different. They could be really big signings. It's all up the middle, I think, is where you could see the most flexibility. And sorry, one last thing I'll add on because there's one other player I forgot to mention here who I'm really excited for in this Jim Schwartz defense, and that's Grant Delpit. Grant Delpit, and I'll say this, it's a caveat. It's a big if. If Jim Schwartz finds the correct free safety, which i.e. Jordan Poyer, Jesse Bates, Grant Delpit's going to have more of a free role. He'll be able to attack downhill more, which is what we want to see in cover 1 concepts. In cover 3, he'll be playing not center of the park. He's going to be on the boundary is where he's going to be, which I feel like fits better with him because in the middle, you got to be able to analyze. You got to be able to read. On the boundary, you got to make sure that your guy in front of you doesn't get burnt. You got to have the athleticism to recover if he's not. That, for me, is the perfect role for Grant Delpit. And that's why I think it makes too much sense to cut John Johnson. That also feeds into it. That was something I forgot to mention, but wanted to make sure I did. But Derek, I've been talking nonstop. It's your turn. Okay. You start talking. Tell me about what your thoughts are overall on this defense. Talk to me about DeAndre Hopkins. See, what do you think? What do you think about that as well?
So defense as a whole, I think it's going to be improved either way. I think you're going to see massive improvement out of the Browns defense in 2023 because I think it's just having a competent defensive coordinator, not even just good. If Jim Schwartz is competent, you'll get much more out of your defense. That's just how I feel. I do think you're going to see a lot of additions. I think defensive tackle for certain. I think even defensive end, you could see another addition. Not big name, but I think you could see a rotational guy added in who can kind of help out. Yeah, with Alex Wright and Isaiah Thomas and whoever that is. I think, again, free safety is a position of need. like we've been talking about. And I'll be honest, I think even corner. I think corner, add another one. Might as well replace Greedy because Greedy's gone. So I could see corner being added. Probably a draft. Probably a draft pick for corner. But wide receiver is a position that I think this team and this franchise has skipped over way too many times. And that's not to say it's a lack of trying because they tried with Schwartz. That's a fail. They tried with David Bell, who I'm not going to give up on him, but you haven't really even given him opportunity much yet. Michael Woods haven't really gotten opportunity, so you can't say either way strongly on that. But my concern is Cooper and DPJ are your only ones, and Njoku. But we've talked about it, Tristan. The Browns need to add another receiver now, as is the offseason game. Big name comes available, and everybody says he's coming to Cleveland. DeAndre Hopkins is an interesting one. It is interesting because he is older, right? This is not prime DeAndre Hopkins, but he's still effective. Like, if he ended up on the Browns, I'd be hype. Very hype, because Cooper would go to your number 2. And Amari Cooper as your number 2 receiver, we've already seen him as the number 1, as good as he is. Like, imagine number 2. And even DPJ, what would that do? Do I think it's going to happen? No, I don't. But I think you're going to hear a lot about it. I think a lot of people are going to assume, because of the connection with Deshaun Watson, I think you're going to kind of hear about that a lot. And I think it is a possibility. I'm not going to sit here and say that this is fantasy. It's not like a DK Metcalf conversation that was had a couple years ago or whenever. Maybe it was last off season. I don't know. But anyway, like, I would have died to have DK Metcalf on the Browns, but it just wasn't going to happen. Hopkins is more realistic than that. I don't think it's realistic, but I'd say maybe you got like a 25% chance, which is fairly high in my opinion, given the name. But you're going to have to trade for him. So what's the trade value looking like? That's kind of the question there. The more realistic option is Brandon Cooks, in my opinion. He doesn't want to be in Houston. Houston's a rebuilding team, and they're going to have the number 2 pick. So
I'll also say this: he's on a 1-year deal. You could easily restructure it, knock down that cap number a ridiculous amount. So that's the other reason. But
I think he's the more realistic option. Is he the better option? Probably not. But boy, I love Brandon Cooks. I'd be pumped if you had Amari Cooper, Brandon Cooks, Donovan Peoples-Jones, David Njoku, and then David Bell, Michael Woods, Harrison Bryant. Like, if those were your options, I'd feel great. I'd feel great about the offense.
Yeah. The other thing I want to bring up, and it's this. Browns spent $230 million on a quarterback. They're going to pass the ball next year. Yeah. They're going to pass it, and they're going to pass it a lot. We are going to have 2 more roster spots because we are not going to carry 5 running backs. We're going to carry 3, the 3 that we have. I don't think we're going to draft another one. I don't think that we're going to sign one to be the backup. No, I think that we're going to lean on Nick Chubb, so that way he can get his carries. We're going to have Jerome Ford as well, and we're going to have Demetric Felton there as well. Those are the 3 that I think will be there. And the other 2, it's partially because their contract situations are cheap. Might as well keep them in that situation. If you see us draft a running back, you can expect Demetric Felton to either be a receiver or not to be on this football team. I'll say that. We're going to keep one on the practice squad in case something goes wrong, right?
Oh, what's old buddy's name? Practice squad monster.
John Kelly?
John Kelly.
Yeah.
I love John Kelly. Dude's a beast.
If he doesn't get signed, I'm sure that we'll have him on the practice squad next year as well. So it's 2 more roster spots that freed up, and those 2 roster spots, in my opinion, are going to be added to the wide receiving room. Maybe one other room, maybe, but I think they'll probably go to the receiving room.
Tight end, maybe. I don't know.
Honestly, I don't think so. I think that we're going to carry 3 on the roster. I think we're going to use more wide receiver sets, is what I'm saying. And with that, I think we're going to see a bigger name addition at wide receiver this offseason. I think Brandon Cooks is the most likely. I think it's possible that you can sign a guy in free agency who's a pretty big name that we like. I would definitely expect that to happen. One of those. DeAndre Hopkins, if we could make it work, and I'm talking like the moment DeAndre Hopkins is traded, he would have to sign a new contract that's restructured, and it would have to be like, honestly, it might even have to like, they might have to say like, agree on knocking down years off of his deal and having him play 1 year at a higher cap rate. Like, it might have to be that, or they'll have to completely rework the deal. But either way, it would have to be something like that in order to make it happen. That's not to say it wouldn't happen. I think it's possible. Yeah. And I think with this receiving room, you're going to see change. You're going to see additions. I think that next year you're going to look at this room and you're going to say it's going to have a healthy mix of veterans that you know what you're going to get, and it's going to have young talent as well to push those veterans. I think that this receiving room is going to get the investment it needs, because realistically, where else on the offense needs any investment?
Left tackle.
We both agree on that, but if
I still like my idea of Andre Dillard, cheap.
Hey, listen, I don't hate it either. And honestly, like, I wouldn't hate it. I also would understand if Andrew Berry just said, let's keep Jedrick Wills for another year and then drafts a guy this year as well to develop behind him to replace him. It could be possible, is what I'm saying. It would largely depend on what you have available in the draft, or what you like as far as prospects in the draft, guys that you feel like you can get. So I'll say that. But man, it's
most exciting time of the year to be a Browns fan. Off season
changes are coming. They're coming. There's going to be big names flown around. I'll say this, Derek. If we find a way to sign Jesse Bates, Deron Payne, and bring in DeAndre Hopkins, I will literally, I'm not even shitting you. Actually, no, I am shitting you. I was going to say tattoo D4L on my forehead, Dr. Life, but that. No, I'm not going to do that. What's something I could do? Maybe like get it tatted like on
you could pay for a cameo for Kellen Mond for this podcast. That's what you could do.
Yes, that is what I'm doing.
Does Kellen Mond even have cameo? Probably not.
I don't know, but if not him, somebody else like that we would love. I'll pay for a cameo of somebody awesome who will.
Oh, I know who you could do. You could do Hugh Jackson. Hugh Jackson's on cameo
of Hugh Jackson, and I'll have him,
and then have him say Kellen Mond sucks on the cameo.
I'll see if I can.
Kellen Mond, you are worse than DeShone Kizer. That's what
I'll just ask him what his thoughts on Kellen Mond are. Who's that?
I just spilled that on myself. Thank you.
But that's what we'll do. Do.
That'll be perfect. Could you imagine? Because I could even play it live on the podcast too. That would be. We could just react. That would be fantastic.
But if we do that, paying for a cameo, I'm getting this done. So that's all I'll say about that. But yeah.
Before.
Sorry. Go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say before we wrap up here, Tristan. I told you before we started recording, I have a story. So I wanna share this situation that happened, because I might even cut this and upload it as a separate video too, because it was just so wild. So I've shared a little bit about where I work and stuff, right? I'll put it to you like this. Well, I might as well just tell you what. Who cares? But anyway, so this dude comes over, right? I was fixing the hat wall because it was a disaster, and I was fixing it, right? And old buddy comes up to me, and he was like, he couldn't speak English very well, and he was asking me because we have like $5 and $10 hats, but they're also right next to like the $50 hats. Which does that make sense? No, but that's just how we have it. Anyway, that's not the point. Point is, guy was asking me, he's like, "Oh, what's the $5 hats? What's the $10 hats?" Which people ask all the time, right? It's stupid. It's a $10 hat or a $5 hat. Why are you crying about the price? Anyway, but he was asking me, right? So I was telling him, I was like, "Yep, that's $5. That's $5, whatever." Well, he gets to the register, right? And I'm walking up, and my boss was ringing him out, and next to my boss was my coworker, and they were both, standing there. And old buddy goes, "This $5, right?" to my boss, and she goes, "Nope, that one's not." And he goes, he literally looks up at me, and he goes, I can't. He looks up at me, right? And he goes, "Oh, I'm gonna kill you." But he didn't sound like he was joking, right? He sounded serious. Now, keep in mind, I didn't know. Like, I wasn't lying to him on purpose. I genuinely didn't know. And but yeah, he said, "I'm gonna kill you," right? I look over. Well, I started to walk away because I was like, I don't give a shit. Who cares? And so I look over, and my boss is horrified. Like, she's got a face of terror on her. Like, she looked terrified. Same with my other coworker, right? Tristan, do you know what my response to that comment was?
I'm already dead inside.
Close.
Close.
I without hesitation, my heartbroken ass just goes, "Oh, please do." And I walk away. And let me tell you something. The dude was horrified. He was not expecting that response at all. And it was just like the funniest. Like, I know it might not sound funny to a lot of people, but like, you got to understand the dude barely spoke English. I don't think he understood my humor, right? Because I was joking, obviously, right? But I don't think he understood that. So when I said that, I think it freaked him out so much. Like, have you ever heard that? Like, if somebody is being crazy, you just act crazier and it'll freak them out. Like, I think that's how it was. Dude, it was the funniest thing. And I didn't even think anything of it, right? Because I just went back to work. And then I got home and I was like, did I just have a random person who never met me before threaten to kill me over a hat? Like, did that just happen today? Like, I don't know. It was such a wild situation. But anyway, so I don't think he'll be coming back anytime soon. Long story short,
he's not getting hats from you anymore.
No,
he'll be buying his hats from Kellen Mond next year.
Nope. That or Stetson Bennett.
That's funny.
Well, anyway, you got anything else you want to say before we wrap up here?
Jim Schwartz, pumped for that. Pumped for it. I think it was after gathering all the information I gathered, he was, in my opinion, the best guy they could have gotten. Even better than Brian Flores, because with Brian Flores, we would have had to switch scheme, and there would have been a lot of turnover. I think that Jim Schwartz, it's the easiest transition into being, hopefully, a top 10 defense next year. So.
Yeah, I think, replacing one Schwartz with another Schwartz is the best decision the Browns have made in a long time. So, Ken Carmen just tweeted, "May the Schwartz be with you." So,
fair enough. But, hey, just so you know, he might still be here next year.
No, he's not. No, he's not. No, he's not.
I would do a bet with you, but I'm thinking it's unlikely.
I would bet you $100. I'd bet you $100 that Anthony Schwartz is not going to be on the roster.
I don't want to pay because I don't think he will be either. But I don't want to make that bet. If you want to do something like I just did,
okay,
for the cameo, right?
If Anthony Schwartz is on the roster next year, I will spend. I don't want to say. Should I say an hour? I'll do an hour-long video only talking about the positives of Anthony Schwartz.
You got to include like where he grew up. Like you got to go through his origin story. You got to be the Anthony Schwartz fan club in one person.
Is it biography?
Autobiography. Yeah.
I will do an Anthony Schwartz hour-long autobiography video, and I pray to God that he is not on the team, because I might not live another day past that day, because that might just push me over the edge.
Another thing I wanted to mention. Sorry, I just thought about this. Jakeem Grant. I'm excited to see him next year.
Oh yeah, I forgot he was even on the team.
I did too, but that's okay. That's okay. We'll know next year. Year. But Anthony Schwartz, you'll do an hour-long video. I'll pay for a cameo if we get all the guys that I want. So
there you go. All right. Well, we just hit the hour mark, so y'all got an hour-long podcast to listen to. If you're still listening at the end, thank you very much. We love you and are appreciative. So, anyways, have let us know your thoughts, and have a good rest of your night or day or morning, whenever you're listening to this. Goodbye, everybody.